My name is Connie Zehr. I'm a professor of ecology in the fall and environmental microbiology in the winter because the rivers freeze. And my topic is called All Wet. I took a half-year sabbatical, and the picture that you see is me inside a scale-up, the actual size of a water pipe, taking water into Beijing. I'm going to tell you more about this because I kind of hit the jackpot. Sabina helped me create a proposal dealing with water. She spent a lot of time. I really appreciate it. When you teach microbiology and rivers, the scope of studying is vast. And my major goal was to study water and water treatment in different locations because I have lots of students from around the world. There's training that needs to be done around the world, and I wanted to take a look at that. So what I'm presenting to you right now are some of my, I guess, my major bits of learning. I'm not going to talk a lot about my logic, and I won't tell you about the webinars I took on how to treat sewage better, unless you really care to learn. But I started in January in my own backyard, and there's a picture of me stalking salmon in the Humber in -20. And I'm showing other kinds of things. I went to the Gulf of Mexico, where they're dealing with water pollution and eutrophication, dealing with issues of water management. There are some ducks at the bottom of Lake Ontario. My point is it's all connected. I think most people know that.
Can you steer the mic for the...
I'll get the cliches out of the way. I studied like crazy. I had a personal budget for travel. It wasn't nearly enough, but I spent every penny of it, and I worked very hard to make sure I was ready to get the most out of the places that I visited. That's logic and cliche, but true. I did not expect to spend as much time as I did getting in and out of the college. I spent 2 weeks passing on my courses in December so they could be taught by other people in January. That was a good experience because I got rid of all kinds of paper. And there's a picture of a cocoa nut there because I came back to the 14-week semester and cocoa, and I lost another 2 weeks trying to get ready. I'm course leader for 4 courses, which means course leader for 8 courses. In science, we have lab and lecture. So there's my coconut. Again, if you take a sabbatical is a privilege, I'm not complaining at all, but it took a lot of time. However, that time was part of my sabbatical learning because one of my goals was to stop using paper, and because I had a little extra time, I refused to make paper copies, and I started rethinking the way I deal with information as an older person. Another cliche, it's very hard to learn another language. If you try, you'll gain respect and a number of insights into the culture. Another cliche that I'm sure you're aware of, China's not really a country, it's a continent and a country. That's the subway of Beijing. That's the subway map. There are 20 million people who live in Beijing. 20 million people. And when I deal with students from China or students from India, I feel very Canadian because I'm not even beginning to understand what they're coming from. So for me to go to China was a way of me personally becoming more aware of what our international students are dealing with. Another cliche that I learned is that blogging is really easy once you know what you're trying to do and who you're trying to communicate with. And those of you who are writers know this better than I. I did create a short blog, and you can look at it if you wish. This picture is my foot in the Gulf of Mexico, and I decided to use selfies of my foot to show the places that I had been. But some of these pictures I've described in the blog because they explain why I like this place from the perspective of a water scientist. I'll leave that for later. Blogging to a deadline is hard work, and it was a very good discipline for me because I spent many days at my computer by myself when I wasn't traveling or taking sewage webinars. So writing to a deadline is hard work, and I gained a new appreciation for popular science writers, bloggers, and newspaper writers, people who write books for the public. Again, as a teacher, I can explain something in a classroom, and if my students don't get it, I get next week. And I get, oh yeah, you had a question, let me tell you more. Bloggers don't have that option, you're out there. And the picture on the left is a visit that I made to a water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, and it's kind of difficult to make the public understand that without the wastewater treatment plant, the alligators are going to disappear. Not a local animal, as I'm sure you know. Incidentally, that alligator didn't go in the water. I took almost all of these pictures, so I was there. Another thing that hit me over the side of the head was the fact that geography really matters. And I wish it were part of the curriculum of my program. If you look on the upper left, it's a rainfall map. Beijing is in the light area, almost close to the yellow and the white. I don't have a pointer today. I knew that. Many people would, if you ask them, you say, well, it's in the north and it's kind of dry. It's the heck of dry. And it's also bounded by the mountains. There's a picture I took of the Great Wall in the spring. Of course they have air pollution problems. Not only do they have 20 million people, but the geography bounds that dirty air there. Of course they're thirsty. They're at the edge of a desert. And again, you can read about it in a book, but I was very glad to have the chance to actually see it. This is where I hit the jackpot. I went to see Liz Dobson, a librarian, and I talked to her about some research I was doing, and she very wisely said to me, you should make some phone calls and talk to some people if you're going to China. And I said, nope. I tell my students they have to do that to look for a job, but I'm not going to do it. And she gave me a look, and I did, and I hit the jackpot, so I have to thank her for that. What you're looking at right here is some red lines that indicate the world's biggest water diversion project. 1,400 kilometers in the middle section, going up to Beijing and Tianjin, of an open ditch that moves drinking water, an open ditch, with 5 layers of different kinds of material at the bottom to protect it from pollution, with a very wide barrier on each side to protect it from contamination. $60 billion, an idea that was created by Chairman Mao, who's been dead for decades, taking water from the bottom of China to the top. And I got to see it because I had some connections and I actually made a cold call. Okay, I'm almost done. They say that in China, networking really counts. The woman in the middle is a graduate of our program. I called her. She said, I'm going to China. I will take you to this place. The guy on the right was building 58 kilometers from here to Hamilton of an open ditch for drinking water. He took us to lunch and spent 2 hours explaining what was going on and all these 5 layers, which I can tell you about if you care. The guy on the left, all these 3 people went to high school together, an elite high school in China, and they gave me a whole day of their time, knew me from almost nothing, to explain to me what was going on with this monstrous water diversion project. I got to get to see people on the left doing drinking water treatment, some people on the right releasing turtles back to the river. And a larger multicultural question is, Canadians and Chinese people, or Canadians and Germans, or Canadians and Mexicans. What priorities do we share for the natural environment? Another obvious point, if you have money, you can put fish anywhere. You see on the left, that's the Olympic Park. There is a demonstration project there to show you the use of gray water, which was created for the Olympics. And the people in the front there caught fish and 6 or 7 different kinds of aquatic organisms that I recognized. They were holding them in a pop bottle in the city of 20 million because there was money to build that gray water thing. On the right, this is near the Gulf of Mexico. This was a stormwater management pond which became an Audubon Society showcase for birds because it just happened to have everything that birds want. So another cliche, money talks. And finally, my last bit of learning, I came back from China and was a bit jet-lagged and jumped into a Walpole Island Giselle, and it was just lots of challenges because it was wet. It was a mud project. And we managed to get a lot accomplished because the team, the staff team and the student team, we talked all the time. We can't do this. What are we going to do? We talked with our partners in the First Nation. So the plans all went to heck, but we accomplished a lot anyway. So trust your team and pick your team very carefully. So, question?